up, everybody out in YouTube land? Here for your Guitar Wish of the Day. My name's Lee, and I'm coming to you once again from the incredible Guitar Wishes facility here in Lincolnton, North Carolina. And today we're being joined in the house by Michael Reno Harrell. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Nice to be here.
Oh, thank you so much.
This is one of my favorite guitar stores. It takes you an hour just to make a loop in this room. It's amazing.
Well, thanks so much for that, man. And you have been for over 50 years playing music for a living.
Oh yeah.
And been all around.
You'd think I'd be better at it.
Oh. been all over the country, all over the world, playing and telling stories. And the kind of music you play, the singer, songwriter, storyteller type of music is kind of a lost art these days.
Well, I don't know about that. There are a lot. I mean, there are a lot of people. You know, there are a lot of people that do what I do that are great at it. Mm-hmm. I mean, Verlin Thompson on. Guy Clark was a mentor to most of us. Sure. I was lucky enough to know Guy and Jerry Jeff Walker, and those guys are the first generation that did that. There's a lot of people writing great songs. I mean, Jason Isbell, we could go on and on and on. No, there's a lot of great songs. Yeah. People say there's no good songs coming out of Nashville. They just aren't listening to the right songwriters. There you go. Yeah. No, I've been at it a long time though, and like most people, I'm 71, so I came of age during the folk scare of the early 60s. Mm-hmm. So I started out listening. Bob Dylan pretty quickly kicked that door open that said, yeah, I can write folk songs too. Mm-hmm. Because, originally it had to be, ethnic. And Dylan obviously changed all that, and then that opened. Then there was Phil Oakes and Tom Paxton and Buffy St. Marie and on and on and on, right. And it opened that door. And when I heard Ian Tyson of Ian and Sylvie, when I heard Ian Tyson, I said, I'm going to write those songs like that. And so I got me one of those little spiral-bound notebooks. Carry in your shirt pocket. Yeah. I wore out probably 6 of them. And by wore out, I just carried them till they wore out. I never wrote anything in them. Because I kept thinking a song would just appear, Right. I didn't know you had to go to the river to catch fish, Mm-hmm. So then I went in search of the river, Oh, yeah. Now,
what inspired you to play guitar? Now, was playing guitar just to complement the words you were writing, or did you learn to write to play first?
It all started probably like for every other 13-year-old boy. I turned on the radio and heard something and said, I want to be able to do that. Right. And then as you and I were talking about before we rolled tape here, once you get about 13 and discover guitars, you immediately discover that girls like boys that play guitars. So, that either sticks with you or it doesn't, mm-hmm. But yeah, I started trying to write when I was in high school, and I wrote probably my first sort of decent song after I got out of high school.
Right. And you were telling me that
my first song I managed to rhyme blue eyes in your thighs.
Really?
Yeah. So
I've got to hear a little bit of that.
No, that's all you need to hear is the hook. That's all there was. No, it got worse from there, believe me.
Well, you told me that your first paying gig was in 1963. You had a duo that you had formed with a girl that you met in New York.
Well, actually, she moved to my hometown from New York, and I was a big Kingston Trio fan and Peter, Paul, and Mary and all that stuff.
Sure.
And I had a little guitar, and I was sitting on the front steps of my high school playing this song, what I thought was, it was a Kingston Trio song. Doggone it, I know, I've got the record. And this girl walked up behind me and said, where'd you learn that? And I said, it's a Kingston Trio song. She said, it's a Woody Guthrie song. And I said, who's Woody Guthrie? And she said, you need to come to my house. And I said, yeah, I do. And so we went to her house in her Renault. Mm-hmm. Yeah, little French car, Anyway, we got to her house and walked in the living room. Her mother was reading a copy of the New York Times. I'd heard of that. Right. I'd never seen one. And she introduced me to her mom, and I shook hands with her mom. And she said, Michael and I are going to my bedroom and shut the door. And I thought, boy, being from New York is a lot different than being from here, you know. But anyway, we went in there, and she said, I have something I want to show you. And she opened her closet, and she had stacks of Vanguard and Folkways and records, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, this is Woody Guthrie. And then she said, and this was his sidekick. This was Cisco Houston. And this is Buffy St. Marie. And this is Tom Paxton. And this is Phil Oakes. And you know, I thought Ian Tyson had written Darcy Farah till she, you know, showed me a Steve Gillette record. So I was really lucky in the fact that I had this, from then on, every day after school, I was in her bedroom with her record player. I mean, she might not even be home, but her mom was used to meet us coming home. So I'd start eating dinner there. You know, I'd just listen to her records. And I would sit in front of the record player with my Martin guitar and try to, you know, it's like those of us who try to flat pick, you know, are used to, you know. You could always tell somebody was trying to learn to flat pick guitar by looking at their Doc Watson records. Yeah. You could tell if the grooves were worn out right here and right here, you know, they were trying to learn the, you know, his guitar breaks. So, and she was my singing partner, and we practiced and practiced. And we got our first gig, and I remember backstage she was really nervous, you know, and she was like eating lemons and things, and I'm like, what's wrong? She said, I'm nervous about going out there. I said, we've been practicing all this time. This is what we've been living for, you know. I had no idea that people had anxiety about it. My anxiety was to get there. Right. You know. Mm-hmm. But anyway, yeah, 1963.
How long did y'all sing together?
About a year.
Really?
About a year. And that was early on. I was probably a freshman or sophomore. But there was, again, this was during the folk scare of the early 60s. And in East Tennessee, probably the most prominent folk trio was an outfit called the Green Mountain Trio. One guy was 2 years older than me, and another guy was 3 years older than I was. And one of the members of the trio, when he graduated high school, went off to college, and suddenly there was an opening in this group. And since I had learned a Travis pick, everybody sort of knew. You know, I mean, if you saw me walking down the halls of my high school, I was playing. You know, and then I put it down for Spanish class and pick it back up. Mm-hmm. So that everybody sort of knew, you know, what I did. So I got to audition for this really hot trio and got the slot. So when I was like 15, I was traveling all over with them, you know, because we did a lot of fraternities and that kind of thing back then. Yeah. So luckily, you know, I fell in with guys that were old enough to drive and had Volkswagen vans and had, you know, had an agent and all that. So just within the first year of me really getting at it, I was just lucky enough to fall in with the right people, and they just took me with them, you know. Yeah. And I've been sort of at it ever since.
Wow. That's cool. Kind of all stems back from meeting a little girl from New York.
From New York, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you never know where, you know, it's the same thing in your life. You meet people that you have no idea what's going to happen, and they turn you just maybe 3 degrees and say, look at that. Right. And then you go off in that direction, and the further you go down that way, the further you get away from where you thought you might be going. Absolutely. You know. Yeah. And I got my first good guitar in March of 1964, or a D21 Martin. Sure. I'm the original owner. I've still got it. Yeah, I still play it. No, I don't fly with it or anything, but like at the National Storytelling Festival or something, I take it out or I put it on a record just because it's such an old friend, you know. Right. Tomorrow night I'm taping a show, Song of the Mountains. It's a PBS show. It's on a couple hundred stations around the country, and I'm going to play that old guitar. Cool. But I play it through a Quilter amp. There's a plug.
The plug for Quilter amps.
A plug for Quilter. But yeah.
Awesome.
And I've been playing old guitars most of my life. I'm sort of drawn to vintage guitars. But sure. I tell you what, people talk about the golden age of guitar building. Right now is the golden age of guitar building. Yeah. I mean, just get an Instagram account. Mm-hmm. You'll find out. Or walk through this store, you know. I mean, you know, when I was a kid, I'm 71. When I was a kid, you had your choice of a Gibson, a Martin, or a piece of crap. Right. You know, really. I mean, that was about it. A K was the best you could, or a Harmony, maybe Sovereign was the best you could hope for. And now, you know, I mean, these walls are covered with guitars that are really affordable, that really work. Yeah. You know, And there are great guitars being made in America. Taylor and Martin and Gibson are all building wonderful guitars, but then Hudson Dalton and on and on and on, right down to the single guy that's just building guitars,
Sure.
But not only that, but the production guitars that are available now are just incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, you can buy a $250 guitar now that sounds as good as anything Gibson built in the 60s, probably, So, I mean, this is the golden age of guitar building. I mean, yeah, 30s Martins are wonderful, but so were 2019 Martins.
You're originally from the Tennessee area, right?
Well, I tell people on my shows, more information than you require. I was conceived in North Carolina and born in Tennessee, so I'm bilingual. But no, my family, we go back. We're from North Carolina. We go back all the way back to the North Carolina Thalls.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we've been here forever.
It's a long time.
Yeah. The first record of a Harrell that we found was, my dad's from from Mitchell County, rather. The first record was my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was a fellow by the name of Hugh Harrell.
Mm-hmm.
And we found in the Burnsville courthouse where he had signed a petition, the first written record of a Harrell. He had signed a petition to get the polling place moved from a man's farm who was a teetotaler to a man's farm who wasn't.
Oh.
So that's sort of the way our family got started. We were politically active.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. How could you possibly vote with a good conscience and not have a drink, I guess?
Well, I mean,
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I usually take a drink before I go to the polls today.
I tell you what, if you watch the news, you need to drink during that, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, no, we're getting off the subject.
Yeah. So back to this. So listen to all those records.
Yeah.
You were developing your own style, I guess, of learning to play guitar and write songs at that point as well. So
well, I think like most people, you copy your heroes initially, mm-hmm. and then the way I learned to Travis pick, a lot of people say, "Oh, you learned from Doc," and I met Doc probably in '63 or something like that, early on, because of the part of the country I'm from, mm-hmm. and he was available.
Yeah,
'63 probably. Yeah, but anyway. People say, "Oh, you learned a finger pick from Doc," and Doc played like all those Kentucky thumb pickers. He played with one finger, and like Merle Travis did, and all those guys. Ike Everly, one finger and a thumb. But I was backstage. We had gone. A buddy of mine and I had gone to Cloudland High School in Roan Mountain, North Carolina, to see Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs and all the Foggy Mountain Boys. And at the intermission, they had the old cafegimatorium with the stage built into the side. You remember that sort of thing? You're not that old. No. But anyway, they had a big red velvet curtain. They all did. Every high school had a stage with a big... Anyway, they did their first set and closed the curtain, and Jake Tulloch and Buck Graves, two of the guys in the band, came out and they were selling... One of them was selling string ties mm-hmm. with rhinestones on them, like Lester and Earl wore.
Oh, yeah.
And the other one was selling songbooks.
Wow.
And there was that door in the side of the stage over there, and I kept saying to my buddy, I said, if we went over and opened that door and walked up 3 steps, I bet you Lester and Earl are back there. And, of course, we thought, there were probably armed guards.
Yeah.
But we finally got our nerve up, and we went and cracked that door open and walked upstairs, and I almost stepped on Rosalie Watson. She had driven Doc over because he was a good friend of Lester and Earl and made a record together. But anyway, of course, there was my hero. And I was too nervous to talk to him. Besides, Lester was talking to him, and Earl was sort of over there by himself. And I thought, well, I'll talk to Earl Scruggs, Mm-hmm. So I walked over and I said, Mr. Scruggs, can you show me how you used to take a big D18, put it up to his ear, and play the Carter family stuff and all the gospel stuff they did. He finger picked. And I said, can you show me how you do that? And he said, it's just don't, like that, alternating back and forth. I said, I've seen Doc, and he just uses one finger, and you use 2. He said, I'm a banjo player, and I already got 2 picks on. What am I going to do, let that one hang? So I actually learned Travis picking from a banjo player, from Earl Scruggs. Awesome. So that gave me a little different sound right mm-hmm. there. Not that everybody, there were other people that played that way too. But that sort of got me off on that foot. And then, of course, just listening to all the great singer-songwriters that there were in that movement. And then, when I graduated high school, I'd already been on the road for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And so I just kept going on the road. I never went to one college class in my life. Never went to college. I just went to the School of Hard Knocks, you know. And for many years I went, just like most everybody does, where's their music? Where can I play music? And that's in bars. You know, they have music in bars. And so I would play, you know, I played every seafood restaurant from, you know, from the Hog's Breath to Cape May, New Jersey, you know. And, you know, I'd play a Jimmy Buffett song, and then I'd play something else, and the Dylan song, and then I'd play one of my songs, and somebody'd say, hey, play something we like, you know.
Exactly.
Something they know.
Been there, I know the feeling.
Yeah. So I thought maybe if I get somebody famous to sing my songs, then people might be interested in hearing me sing them. So I decided I would become a professional songwriter, or try to, and that means you're either going to move to New York, you're going to move to Los Angeles, or you're going to move to Nashville.
Right.
With this accent, guess which one I picked?
I'm going to guess.
So I had a bunch of friends in Nashville, and I got an audition with a publishing house on the road down there. And the first publishing deal I had was with New Clarion Music, and I signed a contract with them. I got one cut, and they went broke and closed the doors in a month. It wasn't my fault, I'm telling you.
That's your story you're sticking to. Yeah.
And then I got a job with Cedarwood, and they had, I don't know, 200 or 300 writers on staff, and I immediately became the smallest fish in one of the largest ponds. But then at a songwriter night one night, you know, a guitar pool as they call them down there was this guy kept watching everybody, and he came up to me at the end of the night, 2 in the morning, whatever it was, and said, I like your songs, they're different. And he said, I tell you what, he said, if you write anything I think that I can get a cut on, he said, I'll publish it for you. And the man's name was Bob Doyle, and he had 2 artists he was managing, one by the name of Buddy Munlock, and Buddy's a great singer-songwriter, and the other was a little chubby guy from Stillwater, Oklahoma, named Garth Brooks.
Wow.
The first demo I ever recorded with Garth cut.
Really?
Yeah, with just a guitar.
That's amazing.
And then we got this guy named Joe Diffie cut the real demo, and then that got a cut, and I got my first and last platinum record with Bob Doyle. Got a couple of golds. We got on some good stuff, but I had an epiphany one day. Bob called me into his office, and I discovered I wasn't cut out to be a country music songwriter. When Bob Doyle looked at me and said, Michael, you're not cut out to be a country music songwriter.
So he had to tell you. Yeah.
So, you know, I was over it. I was through. I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, put that Martin guitar under the bed, and it stayed there for about 2 years, and I never opened a case.
Really?
And then I met these folks in Charlotte that were starting this Americana thing, and they keep asking me to come sit in with us. And so I did that once, and this girl that I knew happened to be there, and after we played one set, I said, that's it, I'm leaving, you know. That's all I'm doing. And so I asked her, I said, would you like to go somewhere else and get something to eat? And she said, yeah. And on the way there, she said, you didn't write that song, because they made me sing one of my songs.
Right.
I said, yeah, I did. She said, you wrote that song? I said, yeah. She said, you got any more songs like that? I said, about 9,000. Why?
Wow.
And she said, you need to be singing your songs in front of people that'll listen to you sing your songs. And I said, I tried that for almost 30 years, and I never did find them. I don't think they're out there. And she said, well, if I were to find you places to play where people would listen, would you go? And I said, everywhere you found a place for me to play that people would listen, I'd go. And we've been married 23 years, and she's been my agent and my manager for 25.
Wow, that's amazing.
And up until just a few years ago, I worked between 200 and 250 shows a year.
Wow. What are you at now?
Oh, I'm down to about 130 now. But the shows got better and the pay got better, you know. So I don't have to work as much. And like I say, I'm 71. I like being at home.
Sure.
I don't mind the road, but you know, you get to where you like hanging out at the Drexel Barber Shop, you know, play music there, you know.
All right, I would love to hear something. If you don't mind digging through your list of songs.
I'll do you a song I wrote about sort of what we've been talking about today. My mom, 3 people in my life that influenced me the most. reading underneath the covers. About the time my mama walked in, and I knew I was in for trouble. I knew I'd have to pay the price. Then she said, son, show me what you're reading. And when she left my room, she turned on my lights. Here's to the ones who show us how it's done, 'cause they don't see the world in black and white. Here's to the ones who aren't afraid to let us run and let our imaginations take flight. Here's to the ones who shine the light. I had this teacher back in high school, junior English, 8 a.m. One morning I was late for class because my guitar sounded so good in the gym. And I knew I was in for trouble. And then I found out I was wrong. 'Cause while everybody else was writing poems, my assignment was to write a song. Here's to the ones who show us how it's done, 'cause they don't see the world in black and white. Here's to the ones who aren't afraid to let us run and let our imaginations take flight. Here's to the ones who shine the light. I make my living telling stories and singing songs like this one here. But I used to play in places where they'd tell me that ain't what we want to hear. And then I married me an angel, and because of her, my barroom days are through. And now I travel around the country, singing songs and telling tales to folks like you. Here's to the ones who show us how it's done, 'cause they don't see the world in black and white. Here's to the ones who aren't afraid to let us run and let our imaginations take flight. Here's to the ones who shine the light. Here's to the ones who shine the light.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so
you.
very much. Now, if anybody wants to know, if anybody wants to get any of the music, is there somewhere online? Do you have an online presence?
Yeah, well, iTunes and all that, of course, but Michael Reno, MICHAELRENO, just like in Nevada, .com, everything's there. And, of course, we got YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff.
Awesome. And so you said you're heading tomorrow to film for PBS, correct?
Tomorrow I'm taping my 5th Song of the Mountains for PBS, and then we'll plug Dolly Parton's Resort Hotel. I'm down there doing a corporate gig, and then off all over the country. I'm going to be in California, and I'm going to be visiting Norm's in Tarzana. So, hey, Norm. Just all over Idaho, Michigan, Florida.
Wow.
hither and yon.
They're not. Well,
Yeah.
they're all in for a treat because it's truly an honor. Thank you so very much again.
My pleasure.
And for that song, was amazing. And if you want to know more about his music, check him out at his website. And actually, you can come and call us, and we'll tell you how to get in touch with him. It was great. And thank you so much for joining us. And,
my pleasure. Y'all, if you're looking for guitars, if you can't find one in here, you're not looking for a guitar. Good Lord. Rickenbacker 12-string. You can buy that at Kmart. Go get one. No, this is great. You guys are wonderful. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. All right, and if you love Michael Reno's music as much as we do here at the shop, and if you want some on CD, come on out. We've got some copies of the CDs here at the shop. And be sure and check him out on YouTube. He's got so many great songs and great stories out there. You'll love it as much as we do. And if you want to know anything else, please check him out on michaelreno.com, and we'll talk to you soon.